I see more and more people joining us. We will wait for another minute before we kick off. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this webinar where we will be discussing illicit finance in the Western Balkans. My name is Fationa Meidini, and I'm the director of the Global Initiative Observatory of Illicit Economies in Southeastern Europe. I have the pleasure of being your moderator today. Over the next hour and a half, we will take a closer look at the issue of illicit finance in the Western Balkans and present two recent reports published by our team. The first report, launched today and authored by my colleague Anesa Agovic, is titled Washing Away Crime, and it provides an up-to-date assessment of the state of money laundering in the region. The second report, prepared by my colleague Dardan Kochani and published in November last year, examines the vulnerabilities of financial institutions in the Western Balkans to this growing threat. These two reports are, in fact, part of a broader body of work. The global initiative engagement on illicit finance in the Balkans began 5 years ago, in 2020, when we published our first assessment of illicit financial flows in Albania, Kosovo, and North Macedonia. A year later, we followed up with assessments for Serbia, Montenegro, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Since then, we have continued to build on this research. We have looked at the impact of the war in Ukraine on illicit finance in the region, and recently have investigated the financial foundations of violent extremism in the Western Balkans. Furthermore, we're currently working on a new report focused on the presence of the professional money launderers in the Balkans. This upcoming research aims to define and understand professional money laundering networks, identify their operational strategies, and provide recommendations for both state and non-state actors. In addition to these reports, we have created a series of short videos to make this topic more accessible. And in February last year, we launched a Toolkit, designed as a resource center on illicit finance in the region. This toolkit aimed to support civil society and the media in understanding, measuring, and monitoring how effectively illicit financial flows are being addressed across the 6 Western Balkan countries. We recently updated, just 2 weeks ago, this toolkit, and my colleagues will present it later in this webinar. It is important to emphasize that the Global Initiative is a civil society organization, and we are really pleased to play a role in this field, alongside, of course, state institutions. In a time when illicit finance threatens good governance, weakens the rule of law, and undermines sustainable development, it is essential that civil society in the region is empowered to take an active role. In our work, we place strong value also on local expertise. This is why we are especially pleased to have with us today two of our collaborators who will offer short presentations. We'll have the pleasure to have Milunka Milanovic, an expert on anti-money laundering and sanctions in Serbia, and Krešni Gaši, an investigative journalist and editor at Björn Kosovo. We hope these presentations will offer valuable insights and spark further discussions on how to tackle illicit finance in the region. There will be time at the end of the presentations for any remarks or questions that you might have. Our work on illicit financial flows could not have been possible without the financial support of the United Kingdom, which enabled the production of these two reports that we are presenting today, as well as the upcoming one. A special thank you also goes to GIZ in the Western Balkans, who have consistently supported our research and have been pioneers in promoting a stronger role for civil society in addressing illicit finance. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to my colleague Anesa Agovic, who will present the key findings from her new report on money laundering in the Western Balkans. Anesa, over to you.
Thank you, Fatjona, for this kind introduction and overall presentation on what have we been doing in the last 5 years on illicit finance. Claudia, please do share the screen. In the beginning, I have to say good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. It is actually a pleasure to be among my colleagues here today and to speak about this important topic. As Fatjona said, we are launching today a report that actually my team worked very hard in the previous year. And I would like to kindly invite you all to check out our reports and dive into extensive content with carefully selected information and details that actually enriched with statistic that we gathered and that overall illustrate the phenomenon of illicit finance in the Western Balkan 6. Next slide, please, Claudia. While we assess the regional context, it is important to note that economics of Western Balkan region differ, but they also have a slow economic growth with very high unemployment but low investment rates, which are strongly burdened with unstable political settings. We have to remind that this region also faces significant challenges due to corruption, weak regulatory oversight, and the exploitation of both legal and informal financial systems, which actually makes them vulnerable to the complex money laundering schemes. As we recall that money laundering is a central element of organized crime, which allows criminal networks to conceal illegal profits and incorporate these into legitimate economy. We have seen through our report that money laundering typologies are mixing old methods with new innovation, but also leveraging local economic vulnerabilities within the region and using global financial systems to hide origins of criminal proceeds. We have also analyzed that technology has brought new challenges for law enforcement efforts to disrupt organized crime and prosecute criminals who are already adapting to the new trends. And it is necessary to recall that recent trends in money laundering in this region suggested a rise of engagement of enablers and facilitators, such as already noted, professional money launderers and money mules as well. Next slide. We have seen that criminals launder their illegal funds by disguising the source. Although we have collected information on within this complexity of money laundering, where we see it as a component of illicit financial flows in the broader extent. We have elaborated on what channels are being used, and we said within this report on how much money laundering actually underpins most forms of organized crime, allowing criminal groups to distance themselves from the original transgression, which enables them concealing their assets within the region. As recalled, this assessment have shown the use of old and new methods within the money laundering typologies. Next slide. Within our started with this, and the overall through 2024 and even to 2025, we updated the information. We have used this research methodology that actually brings in innovative and comprehensive insight into this current situation of money laundering. This, as said before by Fatjona, this report is a civil society contribution, which is based on the open source, which includes secondary literature, government evaluation reports, media reports, and so on. And in the field, this research was conducted by 6 local researchers and 1 regional researcher that contributed all together, conducting 99 extensive interviews with a range of experts and representatives of relevant organizations and industries within all Western Balkan 6 countries. Next slide. When we speak on the laundering process, we need to recall that actually this laundering process is commonly described within the 3 stages. As you are aware, where first stage is just reminding on importance of hindering direct association with the crime. The second one, use of complex transactions, or called layering. And in the end, integration, where money is available to the criminal from what seem to be legitimate sources. But we need to recall that these 3 stages are the life cycle of the money laundering that is not usually always used in this order, that can be combined, repeated, and what more importantly, that can be actually bypassed, depending, of course, on the laundering methods that are used. This is a very useful conceptual framework, but we need to be careful that recognizing modern money laundering is highly adaptive and often is actually utilizing methods that do not fit even nearly to this structure. Next slide. During our assessment of the main generators of money laundering in Western Balkans 6, we have seen that in the crime of money laundering, the activities that first generate the illegal or illicit funds are typically called predicate offenses. And alongside the criminal markets, they are shaped by different factors, from the economical to geopolitical, legal, and so on. In the report, we have provided an analysis of the sources of illicit funds that are being laundered in the Western Balkan region, with direct examples within the countries from field work that we conducted for this report. And on the assessment of the criminal markets, we go from drug trafficking and human smuggling, corruption, firearms smuggling, illegal gambling, and so on. And we have seen that as well, that the region is also a major route for the human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, that is also recalling significantly within these years. Important note is actually on the reflection on the cyber-enabled crime in the Western Balkans 6, which is becoming increasingly sophisticated, with criminal networks leveraging technology to commit large-scale frauds. On the reflection of illegal gambling, which is actually flourishing in, for example, in Kosovo, we have seen that estimates suggest that this type of criminal market generates billions in unreported revenue, which is often funneled in the illicit finance. On the other hand, we have to also recall on the loan sharking, which is back in trend as an emerging important component of criminal markets in several countries within the Western Balkan region. As said, alongside this criminal markets, there are tax offenses as well as corruption and informal economy, which are generating money laundering. And in that sense, we have wrote about how tax evasion and fraud by legal entities also contribute to illicit financial flows. Not to dive into much details within the report, as said before, there are direct examples per these generators of money laundering. Next slide, please. To assess on the sectors of that are high risk for money laundering within the Western Balkans 6, we have listed as on the slide. And we have seen that, for example, in recent years, the technique of money laundering money through investment in construction and real estate has become more than common. On the other hand, money laundering practices in the financial services sector include structuring deposits, exploiting banking relationships, and misusing insurance, investment, or money-related businesses. Here, I would like to reflect on virtual assets specifically, where money laundering through cryptocurrencies has emerged as a pressing concern for regulatory bodies and law enforcement agencies, especially due to their anonymity and the ease of transactions and, of course, lack of regulatory oversight. On the other hand, where we provided a lot of details to be more specific, are service companies reflecting on the legal, IT, marketing companies, and so on. We have seen that they are being used as fronts for laundering money, providing legitimate cover for transactions that, on the other hand, they're being used as a carousel fraud with shell companies in sense of using fictitious documentation and phantom companies called like laundromats. We have also noted on the cash-intensive businesses, which include money exchanges, services, tourism, hospitality, are particularly vulnerable to money laundering. And we also noted that fraudulent invoicing and phantom billing are both money laundering typologies that are actually being used for manipulation of invoices, but also they differ in the execution. Within the energy sector, that is a novelty on the mapping out of use of sectors for money laundering. We have seen that they have been identified in Bosnia and Serbia as well as important sectors for money laundering. On the other hand, we also gave a special focus to sectors such as entertainment industry, which is more and more prevalent across the region. For example, within this entertainment industry, we have seen industry including film production, music, and even event management are increasingly used for money laundering across the region. Very important to say that criminal organizations and individuals are more and more capitalizing on the complex financing structures involved in overall entertainment industry, but also including, for example, use of luxury items. This is something that we have seen in the previous law enforcement operations among seizures. And we understand that the high value of these items are being used in sense of to be easily moved across borders, and they are very attractive to money launderings. Next slide. As based within the national risk assessments, we have listed the vulnerability to money laundering on these following sectors. And you can see that, for example, the sectors found to be high and extremely high, for example, are the banks in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Serbia, and other countries, construction, real estate, legal services, casinos, games of chances, and etc. It's important to say that this report explores how actually these sectors are being exploited for money laundering. And each of these sectors was pointed out within its vulnerability and provided certain examples. Next slide. As we can say third component of our report, the idea was to map out the hotspots of money laundering in sense of like to understand where the money laundering is specifically pointed out. And we have seen, of course, in the capitals and the major cities within the Western Balkans that actually serve as the central nodes for money laundering activities. On the other hand, as spoken about within the sector part, touristic areas across the Western Balkans are particularly vulnerable to money laundering due to high volume of cash transactions. On the sense of towns with dubious economic activities, we understand that they serve as hotspots which are often linked to organized crime activities. And we have listed especially these hotspots within the report to understand on which are the emerging, for example, centers of money laundering, but on the other hand, which, for example, activities are developing within other cities. Next slide. Another important component where we gave also special focus is gender and money laundering, because we have seen during our research that more and more women are becoming part of the criminal networks, but also being part of the money laundering schemes. And we have seen that the role of gender for a long time has been overlooked and underestimated, but also the women in the Western Balkans are rarely portrayed as criminals, although they are actually depicted usually as victims. But we have seen through our report that women can be deeply involved in various roles within criminal organizations, as they can act as legal fronts, property holders, transaction intermediaries, or even to be used in laundering illicit proceeds from drugs and corruption. And to point out that only 3 out of 6 Western Balkan countries have published statistics on women convicted of money laundering, as you can see in the table. And while, for example, we have seen in Bosnia a decrease that could indicate a temporary fluctuation or a shift in the enforcement strategies. But on the other hand, for example, in Kosovo, as a country, they don't keep gender disaggregated data on money laundering, but they were estimates, according to our interviews, that around 20% of the suspicious transactions reported by the banks to the FIU involved women. But this estimation is not supported by the indictments or court rulings, since there was no women charged with money laundering in Kosovo. Next slide. Within our report, we have also provided what the country have been doing in curbing the money laundering, and as their response, besides the adopted legislation, what is the situation on their prosecution and investigation of the money laundering. As we have seen that all Western Balkan 6 countries have adopted national laws outlining the definitions of money laundering. We have seen that the legal overview in sense of understanding penalties such as conditional sentences, fines, and house arrests, as well as imprisonment. We have also seen that, for example, confiscation or freezing of criminal proceeds and assets is a basic element in combating financially motivated crimes. But nevertheless, there are comprehensive and appropriate legal frameworks in place. We do see lack of it in practice, and especially in regards to the cryptocurrency seizures, countries, for example, have option to either hold or sell them, but there's very little information on whether countries are freezing which were cryptocurrencies and what actually happens in the end. And for example, in regards to financial investigations across the region, we have seen that they are rarely proactive, and primarily they're being conducted in relation to predicate offenses, but rarely to the prosecution of money laundering offenses. We also see that corruption is burdening the process of investigation and overall prosecution, because in some cases we have seen that criminal actors understand that they are under investigation and they take steps to conceal their proceeds, which in some cases prosecution takes the lead in conducting this financial investigation and pursue money laundering charges as an independent offense, which is separate from the underlying criminal activity. Next slide. As in concluding remarks, we have pointed out that money laundering is a central element of organized crime, which allows criminal networks to conceal profits. Within the criminal markets that we mapped out, we have seen that they produced illicit proceeds, and that there is a widespread belief that actually political influence, there is a political influence over financial intelligence units, and that there is an issue with law investigation rates and how law indictment rates suggest that organized crime also influence on the law enforcement agencies. We also understand that key sectors such as construction, real estate, and cash-intensive businesses are very often exploited, and with laundering activities that employ methods, for example, as bulk cash smuggling, corporate layering, and trade-based schemes. Next slide. In conclusion of how actually geopolitical events can affect the money laundering in that sense, we have seen, for example, previously the COVID, how affected, but also the war in Ukraine and sanctions have profoundly influenced money laundering practices in the Western Balkan region, particularly to the increased use of, for example, cryptocurrencies to evade financial restrictions. We also elaborated in this report on actually how investor citizen schemes are important in sense of they're referring as golden passports, which enable individuals to gain a new nationality through a set of payment or investment. We have seen examples of Montenegro and Albania, and we also reflected on the issue of dual citizenship that needs to be addressed in the effective fight against money laundering. Last slide. Within the recommendations, we try to provide very useful recommendations that can be used by the governments or we can say relevant institutions, where we analyzed on what capacities should be strengthened on the sense that, for example, prosecution of money laundering cases should be prioritized and acted as an independent offenses. Particularly in the connection with the regional and international organized crime. We also pointed out on why regulatory oversight should be strengthened through robust measures to prevent criminals from owning or managing financial and non-financial businesses, especially in areas vulnerable to abuse for money laundering activities. And I would say to prioritization in sense of virtual assets, which needs regulation. And in some countries, this prioritization should actually begin with the adoption of legislation. I would like to thank for the time. I hopefully didn't preach too much, and I will give my back word to the Fatjona.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anessa, for your presentation and for sharing with us the key findings of your latest work. Just a quick reminder to everyone in the call, we will have about 20 minutes at the end of the event for your questions and remarks. So please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box at any time. Also, I hope that you are not overwhelmed by the large number of links that we have shared in the chat. We simply wanted to highlight the extensive work that we have done over the past 5 years and, of course, to be helpful. I would like now to invite my colleague Dardan Koçani to present his work, which analyzes the vulnerabilities of financial institutions in the region when it comes to tackling illicit finance. Dardan, over to you.
Thank you, Fatjona. So in this research report, we have looked specifically to the use or exploitation of financial institutions for illicit finance in the Western Balkans. Next slide, please. So the integration of technology in the financial services has not only improved the services provided by financial institutions, but also customers, but at the same time has caused many challenges for authorities. The financial institutions remain the primary channel in which illicit funds are moved within, but also across borders. We have noted that anti-money laundering compliance officers, but also bank officials, are subject to both internal and external interference. When reporting entities, in this case financial institutions, send a suspicious transaction report to the FIU's Financial Intelligence Unit, they should receive some feedback on the quality, but also on the outcome of that report. On the other hand, when the FIUs send a report to the prosecution or police, they should also receive some feedback. However, this feedback mechanism is not systematic, is not comprehensive, and is not case by case. Rather, is very ad hoc, And sometimes reporting entities, but also the FIU, learn about the outcome about a case only from the media reports. There is also a lack of unified and up-to-date register on politically exposed persons, close family members and associates for the use of financial institutions, but also reporting entities in general, which makes their work very challenging. Next slide, please. As you can see in this table, there is reliance on the financial institutions in sending STRs. As you can see, on average, 87% of STRs are sent by financial institutions, while only 13% are sent by other reporting entities, which are notaries, lawyers, accountants, etc. And this makes the process not holistic approach against money laundering. Notaries, lawyers, accountants, they play a very important role in detection of cases, but they are very little involved in this. And this is why in our next research, we will be focusing on the role of lawyers, notaries, and accountants, and how they are misused or used for money laundering purposes. The only exception here is in Albania, where 35% of STRs are sent by other non-financial reporting entities, namely notaries, which provide the vast majority of STRs. Next slide, please. In the report, we have provided concrete cases and examples how financial institutions were exploited for money laundering purposes. So there are a number of typologies or cases linked to banks. One of the most frequent one are bank loans. So loans are taken by criminal groups or individual or suspects, and then they are repaid quickly with cash or with transactions. And these loans are taken to purchase real estate, but also to invest in businesses. Specifically for real estate, because the sector is widely unsupervised and not regulated, the prices of real estate can be inflated or deflated. For example, if a price of real estate is inflated on purpose, then this is done in order to provide a larger amount fund of loans, while sometimes the price is deflated because then suspects can take a lower amount of loan and then pay the rest in cash. We have seen also cases where banks itself, but also bank officials were involved in money laundering purposes. And a major case also happened in North Macedonia, where a local bank was allegedly involved in money laundering with funds arriving from Venezuela. So around 110 million euros arrived in the bank. 100 million were transferred immediately internationally, while 10 millions stayed in the bank and used for the credit line. The disguise of ownership through other individuals, family members, is also a very common method. And this is done in purchasing of real estate, in taking loans, in investment in businesses, etc. And we have seen recently some cases where wives, but also other members were used for this purpose. In the recent years, we have seen an influx of non-residents arriving in the Western Balkans, specifically in Serbia and in Montenegro, where we have an increased number of non-residents from Russia, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, etc., including also former PEPs. And there are cases when former PEPs or others, they purchase real estate in luxurious residential areas, and local banks have little resources to verify the source of the funds. There are also examples where local entrepreneurs acted as intermediaries for international money laundering schemes. And we have a case in Albania where a well-known entrepreneur used his legitimate business to launder proceeds for Cosa Nostra, but the case was identified by SPAC. Fixture services is also a very common method. In the report, we have provided an example where a Slovenian tax expert allegedly led a group with another Bosnian national in which they created numerous fixtures services, transactions in multiple countries, including EU countries, and then immediately withdraw the cash. And those invoices, fake invoices, were related to the IT sector. Next slide, please. Cryptocurrencies are increasingly being used by regular citizens, but also by criminals and criminal groups. The sector is not sufficiently regulated across the Western Balkan, and there is not sufficient supervision over the sector. This then has enabled crypto exchanges to function in some countries even without any supervision. Peer-to-peer exchanges is a widely spread method. And because of differences in regulation across the region, then we have cases when nationals from other countries go to neighboring countries and open non-resident bank accounts in order to link them with their wallets. Real estates are being listed in crypto websites. So in one website, close to 100 real estates of Montenegro are listed, with prices ranging from 200,000 US dollars up to 4.5 millions. The organized criminal groups in the region are using cryptocurrencies not only for payment of illicit goods, but also for money laundering purposes. We have authorities in Slovenia have already investigated and charged members of subgroups from Western Balkans for money laundering, but also for payment of illicit goods through cryptocurrencies. But also in the last year, we've seen cases by SPAC of Albania when they managed to seize some wallets of some suspects that were arrested. But in general, in the Western Balkans, countries have very little expertise and resources to trace and seize crypto wallets. Next slide, please. The other financial institutions include microfinance, fast money transfer services, and foreign exchange offices. So these three financial institutions are used less for money laundering purposes because of the functions that they provide, and they are mainly used by lower level individuals in criminal groups. With microfinance institutions, there is some suspicion on initial capital establishment. However, this is not supported with any investigation in the region. And these microfinance institutions are not very attractive for money laundering purposes at significant amounts because they provide loans up to 20,000 euros and with very high interest rates. However, it is believed that some loan sharkers frequently take loans at this institution with quick repayments. Fast money transfer services are also used to send money at lower amounts, and usually they use other persons or the person of identity of other persons to send money in order not to be detected, but also fake IDs. For example, human smugglers in Kosovo are also suspected that are using the other identity of other person to make such transactions. Foreign exchange offices are also used in order to make conversion into different currencies to create more complex trails for authorities to detect them. However, majority of the countries in the Western Balkan use euro, and the proceeds, significant proceeds, are generated in euro, so there is no significant need to use foreign exchanges to convert the currencies generated by illicit activities. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the financial institutions play a crucial role in prevention and detection. However, they should be also supported by other reporting entities such as notaries, lawyers, and accountants in order to have a more comprehensive approach against money laundering. Addressing vulnerabilities in money laundering requires more than the adoption of legislation. So the legislation in the Western Balkans is largely aligned with FITF and EU legislation, but the main challenge is that it is not sufficiently implemented, and institutions do not have sufficient resources to tackle money laundering. The supervision specifically on real estate is ineffective. The sector also is not regulated sufficiently, and this is why the real estate sector is the key sector in which money laundering is conducted in the Western Balkans. The partnership between public and private sector, but also the inclusion of non-state actors such as civil society organizations, media, and academia should be prioritized. Next slide, please. In the report, we have provided a detailed list of recommendations for governments, for financial institutions in general, but also specifically for banks, fast money transfer services, and other financial institutions, but also to non-state actors, civil society. So for governments, it is important that they prioritize combating of illicit finance. So currently in the Western Balkans, none of the governments prioritize these fields. They have other priorities, and this field has not been a priority for the Western Balkan governments. They should also support law enforcement agencies in building their capacities with training, with equipment, with other tools in order to combat this field. The financial institutions should enhance their integrity. The integrity of financial institutions is very important, and they should have more training, but at the same time more tools available in order to detect cases. Financial institutions such as microfinance institutions, transfer services, but also cryptocurrencies and exchanges, they should also invest more in training of staff, in screening of customers, but also in detection of cases, because these are the sectors that are more vulnerable and they conduct less verification of customers. For civil society, money laundering is a field that they have not been currently being involved in holding institutions accountable, but also in exposing wrongdoings. There are very few cases in the region where media, civil society organizations, but also academia have conducted research in this field, and this is why also we created this toolkit to support these efforts. And they should also be engaged more in raising awareness against illicit finance, because the general public believes that money laundering does not harm them directly. So this is in brief the main findings from this report, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dardan, for sharing your work and for bringing concrete examples from each country on the vulnerabilities of financial institutions in stopping money laundering, and most importantly, what can be done to improve their effectiveness. Now, I would like to give the floor back to Anessa, who will briefly present the other materials that we have prepared to help anyone in this region to make more sense of illicit finance. And most importantly, share the latest updates that we have made to our toolkit, designed as a resource center in the region. Anessa, over to you. Anessa, you are on mute.
Sorry. Thank you again. As Fatjona already made an introduction in sense of understanding what our toolkit represents, we are very proud that we have relaunched the toolkit with significant updates from last year. What actually represents the toolkit is aimed for media and civil society, and in that sense provides up-to-date information on the impact of illicit financial flows in a very simple and understandable format. Please go next slide. Next slide, please. Here we have an important overview of our work that we conducted previously, as Fatjona mentioned, in the last 5 years. Here is the overview of the reports that we published from the beginning on the illicit financial flows. Of course, my colleagues can share the links for all those reports that we haven't shared regarding the illicit financial flows in the Western Balkans 6. Next slide, please. As Fatjona already mentioned, it is important to understand why we made these videos on the money laundering in Western Balkans. These videos are actually products based on the findings from the report that Dardan have presented, and also the report that we are launching today on the money laundering in Western Balkans. We have chosen separate case studies with each of the country in order to call upon a very important sector that is being used for money laundering. In that case, for each of the country, you have a separate story that is actually mapping out important developments, what is country's response, but also what should be improved. So please do take a look. They're very short videos, and I would say very interesting because we worked hard and for a long time on them. Next slide. Here is actually a QR code for our toolkit where you can easily now access, and the toolkit is available on our website. Next slide, please. As mentioned, this toolkit is regularly updated since last year, and it is aimed for the civil society and media, but also everyone to have all in one place for all countries in sense of understanding on illicit financial flows. This toolkit includes 6 country profiles from the Western Balkans with short summaries that are being regularly updated, and of course full reports that have been published last year. It is important to say that the toolkit is relying on the structure of the Financial Action Task Force in sense of immediate outcomes, where immediate outcomes are being used to assess the effectiveness of the government institutions in sense of providing their measure, what they're imposing the measures aimed at preventing and responding to illicit financial flows through 11 indicators. Next slide. As you can see, here is just an overview of immediate outcomes that have been adapted to the use by civil society and media as we provided within the toolkit. And it is important to say that this toolkit follows up a bottom-up approach for analyzing illicit financial flows, which actually takes on key predicate crimes, assesses each and aggregates them. In this understanding, this toolkit is perceived as a remedy, and it enables everyone who is interested or is working on this topic to assess key information for all Western Balkan 6 countries in order to understand better the current institutional responses. So the idea was actually with this toolkit to present very complex data on a difficult topic for understandable and friendly use for everyone interested in this topic. Next slide. Dardan, it's your floor.
So in this updated toolkit, we have provided some new information from countries. So we have provided the latest anti-money laundering reforms, such as laws, policies, national risk assessments adopted. We have also provided some trends in the money laundering typologies and updates on prosecution, confiscation, and investigations. So we have done this by conducting fieldwork, but also we use the opportunity from our expertise during our recent research that we conducted for the 2 reports that we published earlier with ANESA. Next slide, please. So for Albania, Albania update reveals both growing risk, but also stronger enforcement. So the real estate continues to be the main laundering channel. However, on a good note is that law enforcement have intensified the operations against money laundering. We have specific cases on money laundering, standalone cases, and seizures of assets. In only one case, authorities last year confiscated 50 million euros worth of assets, not to mention millions of assets seized by SPAC in the last 2 years. Next slide, please. For Kosovo, there were some early progress, but the country faces some significant gaps. So new laws on anti-money laundering, beneficial ownership, and crypto were adopted last year. However, the main challenge is that these laws are not being implemented or only partially being implemented. The crypto exchanges continue to function without any supervision from authorities, and which is a growing concern because Kosovo is a country in which cryptocurrencies are quite popular, and this intensifies the risk for misuse for money laundering purposes as well. Next slide, please. For North Macedonia, also the country adopted some legislative pieces, such as the new anti-money law in order to align it with the EU directive, but also the law on asset seizures. However, the country faces problem because law enforcement agencies are not sufficiently trained and equipped to investigate money laundering cases. And in the country, licensed cannabis producers are also suspected of being involved in money laundering purposes. Anessa, and next slide.
In regards to the last three profiles, we start off with Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have also updated on the legal framework on what there were legal amendments, such as the new AML CFT law that was passed last year, and of course the implication of that law. We also noted on, we can say, the overall response of the country to the IFS, where we have seen it was limited due to a lack of understanding of their enablers and the overall scale. We also highlighted the need for more holistic approach to the illicit financial flows, which actually involves relevant stakeholders from law enforcement, media and civil society, as well as academia and private sector. And as noted in previous presentations, I recall, especially now within this toolkit, that, for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina on the state level, virtual assets have been flagged as a major risk. Since they are not on the state level regulated by the legal framework. And according to the national risk assessment, they have been seen as a risk for money laundering. Next slide. Within the Montenegro, we also have, we can say, followed up on the legislation that was amended. We have seen that the country lacks oversight of cryptocurrencies and the trade, which is facilitated by the blockchain technology, which further creates a specific vulnerability to the use of the organized criminal groups and exploitations through the investments in the cryptocurrencies. Interestingly, we also gave details on the supervisory authorities in that sense, where the supervision conducted by the Central Bank of Montenegro, and there was a conduct of the series of inspections and the impact from those inspections. And on the other hand, we have seen that controls on those STRs have increased significantly in the recent years, and in the highlighting that Montenegro authorities should improve the volume and the quality of the STRs by enhancing feedback and thus providing targeted training, that as well as removing barriers in sense of reporting and ensuring the access to the electronic filing system. Next slide. In sense of Serbia, besides law amendments, we have also reflected on the lately published national risk assessments, where there was reflected on the pawn shops, crowdfunding, and the digital assets as emerged as high-risk sectors due to regulatory gaps. And importantly, we have seen that real estate sector is a particularly high risk with criminals exploiting high value assets for money laundering by using the services of public notaries, real estate intermediaries, legal professionals, and accountants. In that sense, we have also updated on the vulnerability by the imposed by the virtual assets as well. I think we have the last slide.
Thank you. Thank you again, colleagues. Thank you very much. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we have the pleasure of being joined today by some of our valued collaborators, including Milunka Milanovic, an independent expert on money laundering and sanctions. She will give now a short presentation on the role of the legal entities in the money laundering life cycle in Serbia. Dear Milunka, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fatjona. Thank you. Hello from my side. I'm Milunka, and I am very glad that the Global Initiative actually asked me to help them in conducting these researches, which are very interesting, and I think you find it also interesting. Today, I will speak about corporate vehicles, about life cycle of money laundering via corporate vehicles. And could you please go to the next slide? So what is this about? From incorporation to integration. So very often corporate vehicles are used for money laundering. Why? There are several reasons. First of all, it is very easy to establish a company. For instance, in Serbia, a limited liability company can be established in a day, and you need only amount less than €1. Anessa already told you about national risk assessment. It was recently conducted, like the recent one was from 2024. And that risk assessment actually emphasized abuse of legal entities in order to conduct money laundering. So it is said that limited liability company is very risky for risk assessment, and you can see like the following reasons. As I said, it is very easy to establish. You can very easily hide ownership, real ownership, and what is the most important for criminals, you can separate legal personalities. For instance, who conducts a predicate criminal crime, let's say corruption, is easily then differentiate from the legal personality for legal entities. So legal entity itself is the separate entity, and it is very difficult to prove that who actually conduct money laundering. So for investigators and also for all other who actually deal with that repressive part of money laundering, it is very difficult to prove evidence. Could you please go to the next slide? So because we are a little bit short in time, I will go straight to the typologies. So the most recent typologies in Serbia, when it comes to corporate, it is Serbian companies owned by offshore entities. As I said previously, limited liability company can be set up in a day. So a Serbian company is then owned by Cyprus or a company from Mauritius or Marshall Islands, all other exotic destinations for worldwide. And when we, as reporting entities, because I work in a bank, we are trying to establish an ultimate beneficial owner, we can often, or in almost each case, we can actually come to Serbian citizen who is the ultimate beneficial owner of that company. So actually, if you are asking yourself why somebody will set up this complex structure, it can be only or most it would be only for criminal purposes, either tax evasion or maybe corruption or hiding and disguising dirty money. So what is the purpose? To hide true ownership. And then what is going on? That company opened the account in Serbia and the transfer of funds starts. So basis for that funds could be services, could be, actually it is very difficult to set up a real price of some service, or if a service is conducted. And also it can be consulting, legal services, marketing services, and what is also used in Serbia, it is re-export. What is re-export? It is legit economic business where actually goods are not coming into Serbia, are not entering into Serbia, but money flows enter Serbian legal system. And for this company, we call it transit transactions. What does it mean? It means that money comes to Serbia and very immediate goes from Serbia abroad. So it is like a boiler company, which is abused for incoming and outgoing transaction without legit persons. When we talk about money laundering stage, it can be layering, so no integration, but layering phase. Could you please go to the next slide? Construction, we already talked about real estate and also construction industry. It is very high risk in Serbia. If you look around Belgrade and all other cities in Serbia and mountains, you can see a huge construction industry. Why? They are very risky. So you can set up a company or you can deal with the construction as a private individual in Serbia. And it is cash intensive business. You can pay services in cash, then build very nice apartment. It is often connected with corruption because they need a permission, they need a construction permission by a state authority. So it can be connected with corruption, and integration is going on. So when we build a building, sell the apartments or rent the apartments, then we have a legit income or so-called legit income. So it is very difficult, I would say impossible to prove that money laundering occurs. Next slide, please. Abuse of entrepreneurs. Actually, it is very common typology in Serbia. How it is dealing? It is withdrawal of cash is actually main purpose. So a person set up entrepreneur, then entrepreneur open a bank account, of course, and then transactions are coming from some other legal entity. So legal entity actually and entrepreneur have some fictitious agreement, and entrepreneur then withdraws cash immediately. So it could be tax offense as a predicate offense. And when we speak about money laundering in Serbia, national risk assessment, tax offenses are most common predicate offense. So it is very use, or I would say abuse. Again, we have cash intensive business. So those entrepreneurs are founded for recycling, film industry, procurement of secondary raw materials, or any other business area that actually is, it is commonly used in cash business. Price, or I would say price for this cash withdrawal is usually 10% and could be lower when it is not in Belgrade. In Belgrade, we have the highest price, so 10% is the usual price. What is going on with cash? Cash is most commonly used by the owners of the company, or actually reused by the legal entities for paying salaries in cash or paying something else from the business life of a legal entity in cash. And the last one, slide, please. Recent cases. This recent case actually is not about corporate. It is about abuse of private individuals, PIs, such as pensioners or some other private individuals who are unemployed. And what is actually going on? They open the account in the bank as a strawman persons, so they are not real owners of the accounts, and immediately wire transfers are coming to the account. And like behind scenario is that they are advertising themselves for some cryptocurrency investment, fraudulent currency investment, and they are advertising for easy income. So incoming non-cash payments are coming to the banks, and immediately outgoing cash payments. So a transaction are small, but it is huge amount in total. And those poor people, pensioners or unemployed persons, they only receive 1% of commission for actually omitting a crime. It is crypto related, but not actually connected with crypto platforms. Only crypto is like fancy now for easy money. So they are using that opportunity and fraudulently advertise themselves for an easy income. So I think that's all from my side. If you have any question, I'm more than happy to answer later on. Tatiana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Milunka, for bringing to us these important details about some of the legal gaps in Serbia that facilitate money laundering. And in fact, I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat, and it will be good if you could also start replaying to some of those. And I know my colleagues, Dardan already had started to do so. Last, but certainly not least in importance, I would like to give the floor to Krešnik Gaši, investigative journalist and editor-in-chief of Kalzo, a beer media outlet based in Pristina. Krešnik will share with us some of the money laundering typologies that we are currently seeing in Kosovo. Krešnik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fationa, and thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be in this webinar and also try to share our experience from Kosovo in what we find out in the process of investigating money laundering. Of course, I think that everything that was presented here it's actually true, and everything, every methodology that it has been used also in Kosovo in last 25 years in our country. But I will focus my presentation in construction companies and also in the industry of building and real estate, because we believe that this was the easy way to launder the money from organized crime, but also from the illegal things that happened before and after the war in Kosovo. I think that we can share my small presentation, and for the audience, we need to understand some information what happened here in Kosovo and how people created illegal money, but also money that can be laundered in our market. From 90s until 2010, most of the movement of the property and also goods was done in cash in Kosovo, and also this created a huge amount of money that was cash. Until now, Kosovo, it's a cash-based economy, and most of the transactions until now are being done also in cash, because we didn't have a chance to create a system that is obliging people to do the transactions through bank accounts, and also to oblige them to just do the movement in the economy with money. Next slide, please. I will just try to go in my small presentation that I prepare. Real estate is one of the riskiest, the biggest opportunities in Kosovo to launder the money, because until 2010, most of the transactions in the real estate were done in cash base, and also if you would like to sell an apartment or a house or a property, you were allowed to do that in cash, and this created a huge opportunity for people to bring the money and to do transactions in cash, and after that going to register these transactions in courts, but also in cadastral offices in in our country. Right now, we have a system that is trying to make it more difficult, because if you would like to do a transaction with real estate, you need to have a bank account, you need to have some money in the bank. But of course, you need to know that Kosovo is a traditional society, and if you would like to have 50,000 euros in your bank account, you can go and send 10,000 to your family members, and they will send it back to your bank account to buy a property, and you can resell it with clean money. Actually, what is going on is that real estate is a high risk and the potential industry that can launder money in Kosovo, and we know for sure that it has been used for many years to launder money that was coming from outside of the country, but also that was generated from corruption affairs, but also from organized crime that is based in Kosovo. Trade business, it's also actually also a problem in Kosovo, because, as I mentioned, we are a cash-based economy, and you can buy everything with cash in our country. You can buy cars, you can buy exclusive equipments, phones, and everything in cash, and nobody is asking you to have a bank account or a bank transaction to do these things. Actually, this is creating a system that you can do anything with cash, and after that you can resell it through bank accounts, and after that you will get clean money in your bank and things like that. Casino, I mentioned this because it was a structure that created an opportunity in our country to clean a lot of money. For many years, right now in Kosovo, casino is illegal, and you are not allowed to have casinos and also lotteries. But after the war, and from 2005 till 2012, I think, the taxes in casino industry, they were really low, and this created an opportunity for dirty money to go in this ATM casinos, and after that you just needed to take the money to send it to the bank, and after that it was clean for sure. Actually, casino is an industry that was never investigated in Kosovo for this issue, and nobody can monitor how much money was generated from casino industry, and how much money went outside from our country, outside of the country, as clean money using this industry. Construction is the opportunity that is being used right now to clean the money. Just to make you to show you as one example, if you have dirty money in Kosovo, you can construct a whole apartment, a whole house, an expensive house, without having any money in the bank, and nobody is going to come back and to ask you, where did you get the money? You can pay the workers in cash. You can buy the goods that you need to construct the house, as concrete or something like that, and everything is in a cash industry. And of course it is a real problematic, because after you will create the house, you can sell it and earn money in a clean way. So actually construction is for sure the way how organized crime is using to clean the money. I had a chance to monitor the last operation of the police that was done with Sky LCC information, and most of the people that were arrested on that operation, they were also construction companies owners, or they were working on construction buildings or exclusive houses. And after that, you know for sure that the money that was coming from cocaine or heroin smugglers, it was invested in construction companies, and construction was used to clean the money. Next slide, please. In Kosovo case, we need to say it clearly and to conclude it that it was a state willing with some decision that was tolerating money laundering in the past. I need to mention here that in 2013, our parliament decided to have an amnesty law that guaranteed amnesty for most of the organized crime groups that were smuggling things from Serbia to Kosovo, and they generated a lot of money through smuggling things, but also through tax evasion and also dirty organized crime things that were happening in this area. And this law that was done in 2013 created a huge gap for investigating money laundering, because this law created an opportunity to launder more than 2 billion euros that were earned from smuggling and also from tax evasion in the north. And right now, this money that was generated for more than 20 years in our country, it was amnesty, and the prosecutor cannot investigate the money flow of this money. Actually, what this decision created, it was that a lot of money, a lot of dirty money that was created right now is invested as clean money in our industry and also in different companies in construction, but also in other parts of the economy. And we cannot go back and investigate the money flow of these things. Another decision that was also, because for us it's we need to say it clearly that if people who have a plan to do money laundering, they also need to have a support by state institutions. We will say for clearly that people who had dirty money, they captured the state and put this amnesty law on 2013. But also there is another law that was generated after this, and it created a huge gap. We identify in one of our investigations that the law for anti-money laundering and for financing terrorism, an amendment was deleted when the law was sent to our parliament, and that amendment was saying that construction company need to report a transaction to FIU, to Financial Investigation Unit, and this amendment was deleted in our parliament. And nobody knows who deleted that, and nobody knows which influence did that. But the consequences of this is that this law tolerated for more than 10 years that construction companies, they were not obliged to report every transaction that was done through their bank account, but also the cash income. And right now in 2025, when we declare that construction companies are the most risk for money laundering, it explains us very well what was done 10 years ago and how people who would like to launder the money, they created a gap in our law and they created the way how to clean the money. Of course, for us, it's an obligation to see how they are trying to find new ways, because when we find out this, the new law that will be amendment, they will oblige the construction companies to report. But I think that there will be new ways that they will try to open new gaps and new ways to clean the money and to find new ways to amnesty their things what they are doing. Another thing what we investigated is also how dirty money that was earned by smuggling, but also from organized crime, was used to be invested in other countries as a clean investments. If we can go to the next slide, I will show you an example how we find out that money that was earned in northern part of Kosovo, it was invested in Ulcin through different companies, through different movements, and it is actually a scheme that guaranteed some good amounts of money to be invested in Ulcin. You see that in the left side of this presentation, you will see Milan Radojicic and Zvonko Veselinovic, who were a part of the organized crime groups in the northern part. Maybe in some of the indictments of the prosecutors, they are shown up as the bosses of the smuggling groups in the northern part of Kosovo. And their partner, Rade Stevic, who was a person who used to earn a lot of tenders in the northern part. And in one of our investigations, we find evidence that Radule Stevic was using Albanian companies to do, because Radule was winning tenders in the northern part, and after that he used Albanian companies that were paid in cash to do constructions in the northern part. Actually, this created a huge amount of money that was in the bank accounts, and clean money that was after that being invested in Montenegro in construction companies. And if you see the map here, you will see that partners of the Albanian companies, they were connected with high-rank officials in our country. We will see the name here of Idris TOC, who is the brother of our ex-president Hashim TOC, and he was included in the construction companies in Uchin. So actually, this map shows up how organized crime is cleaning the money and how the money is reinvested in other countries as a clean money. And for sure, this case that was published in our investigation, it was until now not investigated by the state prosecutor. Of course, what we can say here is that there is a huge political will not to start a good investigation about money laundering. I think that my time is up, and it was just a short presentation. I can share with you because last month I published a documentary about money laundering in Kosovo, and I will share it on the link. It is subtitled in English, and you will get a lot of information about different types of money laundering and also evidences what is going on in Kosovo, but also how money from Montenegro and from Albania is being invested in Kosovo through different channels and different industries in the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kreshnik, for giving an overview of the sectors and the typologies of money laundering in Kosovo. It's always a fascinating topic, and I know that there's a lot of passion in what you do, and this is why you just also lose a little bit track of time. But yeah, please feel free to share your documentary in the chat for anyone interested. So we have 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes right now. And I see that my colleagues have been quite efficient. So they have replied almost, I believe, every questions that was posed in the Q&A box. But of course, they are free, colleagues, if you want also to add something more for any of the questions that have been posed. I just want to start. I see, for example, Magdalena Melenzanska has raised, in fact, questions about 3 main sectors, I have to say. Constructions, how is the current situation? I believe there is associated with constructions, energy sector, but also migrant smuggling. So all of these are relevant. And these are some of the major sectors on money laundering that we are seeing. So, for example, construction is one of the oldest one, not only in the Western Balkans, but also in the world, where money are laundered. And so this is quite typical. In fact, it's one of the most vulnerable, construction and real estate. And our research show that still is the major sector where money is laundered in this region. However, when it comes to energy sector, we are seeing an increase in cases prosecuted that money are also being directed and laundered in this sector. Why? I believe that there is a high demand right now for production of energies. So there are a lot of initiatives that the governments are stimulating a lot of private sector in order to invest in energy. And so for this reason, so this is the sector that also has become very vulnerable to money laundering because it's on high demand right now. And for example, I can give example of Albania, where prosecutors have found, also because of the help that they had from cracking down platforms like Sky ECC, that criminals, people, drug traffickers, they were planning and they were also fueling money in hydropower constructions, for example, in Albania, and this is the case also in other countries. When it comes to migrant smuggling, of course, that has been an issue. Smuggling in the region, it has started a decade ago. It has accumulated a lot of money that, of course, it need to be laundered. It has not been even. Of course, some countries have benefited more than others when it comes to the illicit money generated from these criminal activities. But for example, it's a big activity to this day in Serbia and especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina right now. And of course, it's a lot of money to be made and integrated in the system later on. So these are all valid points. But I'm just going to give, just to get use of these last minutes that we have to colleagues, if they also want to tackle and to reply some of the questions in addition to what you already have replied in the chat.
Okay, I will just shortly reflect on what you said. As mentioned on the human trafficking and bulk migrant smuggling, we have also mapped it out as an important generator of criminal markets as a criminal market up to money laundering. But on the other hand, also when I responded to this question, we have shared insights within our risk bulletin stories on actually how dynamics are changing. So, for example, even within migrant smuggling within the region, we have changes that actually having more foreign actors are being introduced as important on the smuggling circles. But also on the other hand, when I was mentioning gender, we have also seen in the human trafficking where also women are taking part as leading certain trafficking operations or even smuggling. So this is something where gender overlaps within the criminal markets, and I think it's more and more it's necessary to reflect on that part, which actually overlaps on the second question on why we gave specific attention to gender, because we have seen that there is a gap and that there needs to be more discussion. On important note, we also saw that some countries don't even, divide criminal offenses per sex in that matter. So the actually analysis on the trend or even changes on what the role of women is, it's not possible. So I think this is a very a good call to also relevant institutions to give more insights to the gender gender lens within the AML.
Thank you, Anessa. Also, I see a follow-up question on the energy sector and renewable energy sector. So organized crime and then money that also there are accumulated of corruption or tax evasion, they don't discriminate. And of course, there's a need for more renewable energy in the region. So for them, it's a good opportunity also in this kind of energy. And so we are seeing more and more initiatives in the region to provide energy, solar energy, wind energy is also something, but also hydropower plants they are categorized as the renewable energy sector. And so we know that the penetration of illicit money in the Balkans in these initiatives is real. So this is something to be looked very, very closely. I see another question in the chat about the Caribbean and Venezuela. So what we know for sure is the fact that we are having more and more organized crime groups from the Western Balkan region, not only in some classical areas where they have been for almost 20 years, like Ecuador and Colombia and Brazil, but we are seeing them more and more present in the Caribbean or Dominican Republic, for example, and other islands in that area. And so the belief is that, of course, there is the stream of money that goes there in order to sustain their criminal operations. So we have seen cases of these criminal groups that they have been shipping off from Caribbean a large amount of cocaine in some key European ports, and logically, people in those countries, they have been paid in advance. So there is a flow of money that goes from Europe or this part of Europe, Western Balkans, upstream, and then this is also very, very, very valid point. But there are so many questions, and I'll invite all the panelists. Please share your email addresses on the chat, so everybody can also contact you afterwards and maybe have some conversation and maybe some ideas about the things that we can do in the future when it comes to illicit finance, money laundering. So these are very wide topic, and also it's an underreported topic as well. So we are very welcome to have any idea or any guidance that you might have, but also reply to the questions regarding the work that we have already done And as I said previously, we are still continuing to research in this topic. I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for participating today in this webinar. I want to thank my colleague Anessa and Dardan for your hard work in these 5 years and building all this extensive archive and expertise that we have now on the issues of illicit finance in the Western Balkans. But not everything is done alone. So I really want to also thank a lot Milunka and Kreshnik for their constant help and guidance that they have given us, and also other collaborators that they are not with us here today. I also want to I want to thank, in fact, Claudio. So Claudio is behind the scene, but makes sure from our side that this kind of webinars, that they go smoothly from the technical point of view. So thank you, everyone. It was a question probably coming from Montenegro, if we plan to go to Montenegro or other countries in the Balkans in order to have discussions on the reports and materials and exchange ideas. We would love to, in fact. So this is a great idea, and hope we will have the chance to do so, not only in Montenegro, but in each of the 6 Western Balkan countries, because this is a topic very interesting. It's a topic that has a lot of potential. It's a topic that needs a lot of attention and, of course, civil society contribution. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.